So, Moonshot AI has just released Kimi K2.7 Code, and this is one of the more important open-weight coding model releases right now. The official Kimi documentation describes K2.7 Code as Moonshot's most capable coding model so far. It's built to follow instructions much more reliably in long context, and also completing code tasks with much higher success rates, as well as reducing the model's tendency to overthink. However, one of the main claims from Moonshot is that it has much better efficiency. Kimi K2.7 is open sourced, and it improves coding and agent performance over K2.6, and it also reduces thinking token usage by just about 30%. And that means the model isn't just trying to compete on intelligence, it's also trying to compete on cost per completed task. Architecturally, Kimi K2.7 Code is a mixture of exports model, so it has 1 trillion total parameters, but only 32 billion are active parameters per token. MOE models carry the capacity of a very large system, and they only activate a smaller part of that network for each token. You can see here that it also has a 256,000 token context window and includes vision through MoonVIT. So although the release is focused on Claude, the model is not purely text only, so it can actually process visual inputs as part of a broader agentic workflow, which is obviously increasingly important for software tasks involving, screenshots or UI states, diagrams, visual debugging, etc. One little detail that I did want to point out is that Kimi K2.7 Code also always operates in thinking mode, so you can't actually just turn this off. And that means Moonshot is treating reasoning as a core part of the model's coding behavior and not just an optional setting. The trade-off is that users need to be more careful about token usage, latency, and when this model is actually worth using. Moonshot says that Kimi K2.7 reduces overall overthinking tendencies by roughly 30% on average, when in comparison to K2.6. So in practical terms, that means that the model should theoretically spend much fewer reasoning tokens to reach a stronger result. And this is why DevOps teams should actually care about this, because coding agents do not usually answer once and then stop. Usually they're inspecting every file, every call tool, running tests and editing code, and they can create, hundreds of model calls across just one task. And if the model is able to improve while thinking less, then the improvement isn't just technical, it becomes more so operational. Moonshot's benchmark table shows meaningful gains over K2.6. Kimi Code Bench V2 moves from 50.9 to 62.0. Program Bench moves from 48.3 to 53.6. MLS Bench Lite moves from 26.2 to 35.1, and these are not small changes at all, especially when they're paired with lower reasoning token usage. We also see the same results on Cloudflare, where they summarize the same improvement as the plus 21.8% on Kimi Code Bench, plus 11% on Program Bench, and the plus 31.5% on MLS Bench Lite. So overall, we can conclude that Kimi K2.7 Code is much better than K2.6 across Moonshot's coding and agentic benchmarks. Now, the big caveat here that I did want to point out is that a lot of Moonshot's strongest launch members are actually just relative to its own previous models and its own benchmarks. So that does not make them fake, but it does mean that viewers should be a bit more careful with the benchmarks, because a model can improve substantially over its predecessors while still needing more independent testing against other models like Claude or ChatGPT or DeepSeek or Qwen and other coding models. And the pricing is where Kimi becomes very strategically interesting, because on OpenRouter, Kimi K2.7 Code is listed at 75 cents per million input tokens and $3.50 per million output tokens. The official Moonshot API rate is slightly different, but the broader point is the same, that it is much cheaper than premium closed frontier coding models. I also found a pretty cool comparison with Claude Fable 5 and GPT 5.5, but we have to keep in mind that Kimi is open weight, so you can download it, host it, and control where your data actually goes. Claude and GPT are managed frontier APIs, so they may be stronger in some workflows, but you cannot self-host them or inspect the model at the same level. And I just wanted to say this because there are some of you who might be confused on what open weights are and what closed proprietary models are. And I believe that that sort of openness matters a lot for companies that have sensitive code bases, because if teams are not able to send proprietary source code to a third-party API, an open weight model becomes much more attractive. And Kimi may not be the best model for every task, of course, but I think the ability to run it inside of your own environment is a very real advantage. Kimi K2.7 Code shouldn't just be judged like a normal chatbot because it is more so a coding agent model, and the intended use case is not asking it a basic question and checking whether the answer sounds smart. The intended use case is giving it a real engineering task and letting it inspect files and invoke tools through a multi-step process. And it's actually really good at long horizon workflows thanks to the 262,000 token context window. So a model like this is really good for agentic tasks. It's great because Kimi K2.7 actually can be just used inside of Hermes Agent, and you can also see that it's also being applied into many other applications, and we're going to start seeing more and more applications very soon. So it's great because a lot of developers are going to be able to just easily develop and plug this into an agentic coding stack. One of the more important parts of the benchmark table is the MCP performance. Kimi K2.7 Code improves from 69.4 to 76.0 on MCP Atlas, and from 72.8 to 81.1 on MCP Mark Verified. And that matters because the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, is becoming one of the main ways AI agents connect to external tools and environments. For DevOps and software teams, this is very important because a useful coding agent needs to do more than write a function, obviously. It needs to invoke tools correctly and update tickets or read files, etc. And MCP performance is a very good sign that the model is being optimized for real workflow integration. Moonshot also lists a high-speed version called Kimi K2.7 Code High Speed. According to the documentation, it is the same model as Kimi K2.7 Code, but it's optimized for faster output with approximately 180 tokens per second and up to 260 tokens per second in a short-term context scenario. But there is a limitation though, because Moonshot has said before that the resources are currently limited and the high-speed experience may actually fluctuate while capacity increases. And I just wanted to mention that because users early on often judge a model by how fast it feels, but I wanted to mention that if the capacity is constrained, then the first week experience may not represent the final product. And there is another area where providers matter, because the same model can feel very different depending on where it is hosted. So things like throughput and time to first token, routing, cache behavior, and reliability all affect the user experience. And when testing Kimi K2.7 Code, I also want you guys to keep in mind not to only test the model, but also to test the provider. Believe me, it makes a difference. Kimi K2.7 Code is also now available on Cloudflare Workers AI, and that means developers can access it through Cloudflare's serverless AI platform, instead of building their own infrastructure from scratch. And I wanted to point this out because I've had a problem with this before, and I think other people have had problems with open weight models as well, where deploying them can be just a huge headache. And it's very useful to have weights on Hugging Face, but not every developer wants to manage GPUs and model sharding and serving infrastructure, and I'm grateful for Cloudflare because it gives teams another path to use the model through a hosted platform while still benefiting from open model economics. And we can also see here that Kimi K2.7 actually ranked second after Fable 5 and before GPT-5X High, and this is on the Erdos benchmark. I also wanted to point out some of the cool things that people are making with Kimi K2.7, and this was something that was one-shotted using it. Someone also gave this exact same prompt to Fable 5, but it took much longer for Fable 5 to make the same thing since Kimi K2.7 is just so fast. And again, this was a one-shot prompt. And I mean, clearly you can tell this is very good. I love how fluid this website is. It just looks very nice. And here's another website that Kimi K2.7 created. I mean, that is just so cool. Wow. Someone also did a test comparing GLM 5.2 to Kimi K2.7. GLM 5.2 is on the left side and Kimi K2.7 is on the right side. Now, obviously both of them look amazing, but it's up to you which one you think is better. Oh, and I think just from this, I would have to give that to Kimi K2.7. I'm not really sure why there's purple everywhere. Still, it looks amazing, of course. The fact that we can create Minecraft with AI is unbelievable. Here's another really unique project that someone put together. It was a burning paper animation versus GLM 5.2 and Kimi K2.7, which is on the right side. I'm not really sure how people think about stuff like this. This is a really unique prompt. Someone compared Kimi K2.7 to ChatGPT and Claude on their front end design. Kimi K2.7 is on the left side. If you ask me, I think that Kimi K2.7 is doing an amazing job. I mean, I can't really tell the difference between the Kimi K2.7 version and Opus 4.8. Here's another really unique project. It's definitely getting to the point where, wow, hold on. That's crazy. Kimi K2.7 did an amazing job with this. Wow. Unbelievable. That's pretty crazy. So yeah, just some insane results. You guys can obviously find more just scrolling on X, because this is sort of what everyone is talking about right now. So in total, Kimi K2.7 Code is not just competing as another model on a leaderboard, it's competing on different axes of open weights, lower token usage, large context windows, multi-turn tool usage, and practical development options. My final view is that Kimi K2.7 Code should be taken very seriously, but not overhyped, and it is not automatically better, of course, than Claude or GPT or every other coding model, but it definitely may be one of the most practical open-weight options for teams that care about cost and deployment control, as well as long-running coding tasks, which is what Kimi K2.7 excels at, and that is why this release matters. If you want to stay up to date with all things AI, that's the name of the channel. Make sure that you guys subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.